and welcome to another one of our Latern Conversations. And I have Rosemary with me today, one of our congregation members, and I'll pass over to her to introduce herself and to tell us a little bit about how she comes to be where she is at the moment. So it's over to you, Rosemary.
Well, good morning, everyone. And it is the sun is shining at the moment, and it may rain, but the gardens need it. So we thank God for that. And I live in what used to be called sheltered accommodation because I am a certain person of a certain age. But I gather either now it's called independent living rather than sheltered, because when you get to 55, you can come and live in a place like this. It's a beautiful complex. Right up near the Common in Wimbledon, so I'm very blessed. But I just want to share with you how I came to be here. Many of you would know that I'd lived in Ireland for many years, and circumstances were that my late husband, who was paraplegic and a wheelchair user, needed to come back to England to be closer to medical care. And my mother, who was getting on in life, needed constant visiting, and I was coming over from Ireland once a month on the bus overnight, and we decided we needed to come back home. And the nearest we could get near my mum, who was actually living in the block where I'm living now, was in Bracknell, and so we moved there, and sadly 4 days after we moved, my husband died. And that made me actually virtually homeless, because we were living in a specially adapted flat for a wheelchair user. I wasn't a wheelchair user. I had to go. And where to go? Bracknell Council said they will put me on their list. It would take about 3 years to rehouse me, but I could go into bed and breakfast. And so, to cut a very long story short, I was visiting my mother in Holmhurst, and there were 6 empty flats because there was no manager at the time. And because I had a magic piece of paper, like a sort of UB40 that said notice to quit, I rang up. I was able to jump straight to the top of the list, and the next day I was allocated the flat, not 3/4 of an hour away from my mother as it would have been, but just down the stairs. She lived upstairs, I lived directly below her. So I just really felt that God had made this provision for me and put me in the midst of all these lovely older people who I could empathize with and have fellowship with. And that was 14 years ago now, or was it 16? I don't know, the years have gone. And that is how it's proved to be. I am in a community, and this is where I am, and where I'm very, very thankful and blessed to be at this time. So yeah, here I am.
So here you are, and it's absolutely wonderful. Yes, and I've visited you there, and you've got an amazing communal space. So what's it been like, because you've got beautiful gardens and you've got rooms where you can all gather. What's it been like during lockdown then to be, you're almost an isolated little community, like a little village, aren't you, at Holmhurst? So what's it been like for the residents and yourself during lockdown?
Well, in all honesty, I have to say it isn't much different as it is normally, apart from the fact that the management, who rapidly left the building, so it's all done remotely now by telephone calls and so on. We were forbidden to fraternize in the lounge, but we have a huge garden, and the garden, because of the lovely weather, has been very, very well used, especially by the gentlemen of the block, who have taken to having parties underneath my window. I live on the ground floor, because the pubs are shut. There's no football or cricket or anything else. So they've done their communal living very closely together, and that's up to them. But it's been quite jolly, really. And I just have to say, life really has gone on very much the same. You see, I'm of a generation who are really blessed, who are living on a fixed income. I'm in rented accommodation where I don't have to worry about if anything goes wrong. There is food in the shops. We know from having lived through the war how to be frugal. And life is, I have to say, and it seems awful to almost say it, but I feel really, really blessed to be here at this time. And I really think that when God provided this place for me, it was probably for such a time as this.
Yeah, no, that's really good, and it's good to reflect on the good news stories, and it's heartening to hear that yes, we may have lots of people of your generation living alone at this time and things like that, but there are many communities like yours around the country where people are looking after each other and are making the best of it. And like you said, there is a generational thing, isn't there, going on here? Perhaps my generation, we're used to instant access. I was talking to somebody yesterday about it, and how we're so used to being able to pop for a coffee in the coffee shop, or to go to the gym, and so our social activities are very much outside of our home or doing different things. Where, of course, for your generation, having lived through the war, having lived through, like you say, with rationing and blackouts and curfew,
Queuing, yes.
yeah, and making do and mending and all of that, you have a fortitude that perhaps is very different from my generation in our 40s, and our children's generation, that have never seen anything like this. So it is. And when you look at now Colonel, not Captain Tom,
Oh,
he made an honorary colonel.
oh wow.
When you look at his generation and everything, and you think, yeah, it's no wonder they've stepped up to the mark. And many people as your age as well had gone back into nursing and everything like that to work on the front line, because that's what you did. So it's so I'm really pleased though, because it's good to hear good news stories. There is so much bleak stuff out there, isn't there? And it's really good. Could you tell us a little bit, because we've been doing the night shelter and we're still looking after our guests, even though they are away from us in a hotel, but we're still sending them lovely care packages. So could you tell me a little bit about what you organised at Holmhurst?
Well, as I say, we are a community here, and everyone's been looking out for everyone else. There'd be a knock on the door saying, I'm going to the shops, do you want anything? And, I've got a spare. People who've had deliveries of food have left them in the communal area if the wrong thing had been delivered, and just help yourself. So it's been very much a supportive system. And so based on that and knowing how people are, I have to say I am nosy Rosie. I actually know there's 40 flats here, and I actually know every single person, because having said my mother lived here, she and my father moved in here in 1979 when it was built. So I've been coming here, visiting them all the time, and now I'm living here. So I've always known everybody who's lived here. I ran the social club here for many, many years. So I knew that I know people, and I know their ups and downs and how they're placed. And so I knew that they were good-hearted, and because of our age, we always felt there was a limit to actually what we can actually do physically. So with the night shelter, I just put a note round and thank you, Lord, for a computer that can print off 40 messages at the press of a button, just talking about the night shelter and saying that this is where they were at the moment. They had these particular needs, and listing all the things that would be grateful to receive. And I just left a bag outside my door for 3 days, and I was overwhelmed with 2 sackfuls of goodies, plus a substantial amount of money as well. And I was just so heartened, and people responded so well. And so I knew that was the type of people that I'm living with, and I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, when I've been taking it over because the YMCA are coordinating it for us, and when I'd met Ash yesterday and seen Alexio during the week, the 2 key workers, and they were just overwhelmed. I mean, they couldn't believe the donations and the monetary donation that actually allows the night shelter to function, which of course unfortunately it needs to function, doesn't it? I mean, we will be back with our guests in our church again next winter, different sets of guests, hopefully. But all in need and all needing to get off the streets for the winter. So I can't thank the people of Holmhurst enough.